Before this episode starts, we just wanted to let you all know that this was recorded back in March when we still lived in dorms, so we were trying not to be loud. Sorry for all the low key whispers, and also sorry for our accidentally long hiatus. A lot has happened since then, and we can't wait to tell you about it in a new episode soon, so look forward to that. Anyways, we hope you enjoy this long lost episode, and Happy New Year!
Welcome back to Beans and Leaves. Grab your favorite beverage and get comfy as we discuss pop culture with a queer intersectional lens. We're your hosts, Sid, they them pronouns, and Chris, he him pronouns.
So today we're going to do something a little bit different. This is the first episode that we're going to do a topic picked by our listeners. So if you don't already, you should follow us on Twitter and Instagram because we did a poll asking what our listeners would want to hear us talk about next. And the decision for this poll was to do the Blair Witch Project from 1999. So we're going to talk about that today. But the other thing that we're going to do differently than what we normally do is we're going to take a step away from activism-led analysis. This was kind of a hard decision to make when I was brainstorming the script for this episode. I was trying to think of things that we could talk about and relate this movie to. It was one of those where it just came up blank. But because of the way that this film was made and marketed, there's actually a much more interesting topic to be discussed. So we're going to talk about how the Blair Witch had this cult following built up around it and why that couldn't happen today. Before we get started though, be sure to follow us because we would love to do this more often and have listeners pick new topics. So if there's something that you're interested in us talking about, we would love to broaden our scope and hear more of our audience's opinions in general.
Talk to us, please.
Yeah, that's my plug. Now, Chris is going to explain the making of the movie, essentially.
So I literally did a presentation on this on this film for a class. So I'm literally just going to give my presentation to you. I hope you like it. Okay, so The Blair Witch Project is a found footage horror film that was released in 1999. An overview of the film. It was directed by Daniel Myrick and Eduardo Sanchez, who at the time were film school graduates, and had a budget of $35,000. It starred very unknown people, Heather Donahue, Michael C. Williams, and Joshua Leonard. And the summary of the film is as follows. 3 film students vanish after traveling into Maryland forest to film a documentary on the local Blair Witch legend, leaving only their footage behind. This film was also recorded in 8 days and took 8 months to edit. So they really just pooped that one out.
Oh my God. And you've done a couple projects now working with people doing independent films. So is that a long time? Is that a short time? I don't know anything.
For a feature film, that is a very short time.
Yeah.
I've worked on a couple digital cinema student films, and 8 days, that is so short. 8 months to edit. I mean, I can't speak for that part, but the filming portion, holy crap, that's incredibly short.
That's Fast and Furious. Yeah.
That is very Fast and Furious. All right, so the advertising was very important for this film. The internet was pretty dang new, fresh, if you will, at this time. So choosing the internet as like the basis of ads with the website they created was quite a risk.
Well, and this ad campaign really wouldn't have worked anywhere but the internet.
For sure. They created basically the entire backstory to the film before it was released and put up a website, making it feel quite real, like not explaining this is a movie, just like throwing up the website and throwing up like missing posters around like college campuses and things like that.
That website also still exists, so we'll definitely
yes.
put the link to that website wherever we're advertising this episode and possibly in the episode notes as well.
It is quite crunchy.
It's kind of cool to see it still in its original form. It really has that vintage internet feel.
For sure. So since they released the website before really explaining that there was a film attached to it, it really pushed the like experience of the film further, since there were so many like conspiracy theories around everything and everyone involved in it.
It was had a cult following before it even came out.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so they leaked information on the website before the release of the film, making people talk, blah, blah, blah. With the addition of, like, the missing posters and the website and things, it really drove home the idea of, like, is this real? Should we be worried about these 3 kids that are missing? Or is it fake? We don't know. On the site, it included behind-the-scenes information on the legend of the Blair Witch. Police reports have found items that they fully faked.
Wasn't the film reel one of them? Like, they buried it in dirt and they're
Yeah.
like, here you go.
There was, like, pictures of interviews that, like, definitely didn't happen. And so many more things. Like, that is a well-thought-out website they did. And the film and story was so successful at the time that the mother of Heather Donahue received sympathy cards for her daughter.
Because they fully thought she was dead. Yeah.
Which is crazy.
It's definitely the benefit of using unknown actors.
Oh, yeah. Fully.
Which is intentional for sure.
And the film was also cited as the first, like, successful found footage film that really impacted popular culture and solidifying found footage as a subgenre of horror. There were other found footage films before that, but they didn't really do as well.
And they definitely didn't have the kind of, like, marketing strategy that made this film so successful.
Right.
And also made it just stand the test of time for so long too. Like, it endured for a while.
Exactly. And basically all of the found footage, like, horror films that came out after Blair Witch Project really used that film as the blueprint, basically. And one example of that being the Paranormal Activity film, like the first one. They tried to kind of mimic the advertising style, and it kind of worked, but definitely not to the extent that Blair Witch did.
Blair Witch also, because it became the template, anything after that is already destined to fail to a certain degree, because people who were duped by the strategy the first time were less likely to fall for it a second time.
Right.
And people could notice patterns on how to spot faking of evidence and the way that the information was released and whatnot. So it was lightning in a bottle for sure.
Absolutely. There was an attempt at a sequel to the Blair Witch a few years after the first one, I think. Super didn't do as well, probably because everyone already knew it was fake at that point. So trying to just continue the story, it low-key bombed for sure. And then I think 2016, 17.
I think it was 2016-ish. Yeah.
Just Blair Witch movie that came out that was like, I don't know if it was supposed to be a direct tie to the first one or if it was just like a remake. I don't know. Definitely didn't do well.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of the other ones besides the original.
Same.
Yeah.
This is all just from like research.
And from like the response of the people who saw them and whatnot.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Or movie reviews, things like that.
Yeah, people did not like them.
Yeah, but so Chris and I have only seen the first one, but that's fine because that's all we're really talking about with this film or with this episode. But I mean, maybe we'll watch the other ones in the future.
I definitely will.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah.
Knowing that they're not going to be as good, but we also watched this movie this year versus when it came out, which we were like infants when it came out. Probably not our demographic at the time, but
I was 1 year old.
Oh, little baby. But we fully knew like the legacy of this film and that it was fake when we watched it, and it was still pretty good.
It's still a really well made movie.
Yeah. Like what are your opinions on it? I know it's been a minute since we've watched it, but like watching it for the first time together, what did you think? Did it live up? Did it let down to the hype, etc.?
I watched it after doing a fuck ton of research on it. So with the knowledge of these three actors were fully improvising the entire thing, basically, minus like knowing the beats of what the film will be. 100% like method acting for 8 days straight.
They straight up slept in the woods.
Yeah, they had a safe word as well, which is very smart. I think it was like taco or something. Yeah, and they like straight up like were camping out in the woods for 8 days, and the directors fully were fucking with them to get authentic reactions out of them. At one point in the movie, Heather looked off to the side, and there's supposed to be like the witch or something there. We don't see it because she was supposed to pan to it, but was fully freaked out and did not do that. But that kind of made it better, not actually seeing like anything really in the woods, minus some college kids fully freaking out on their own.
Sometimes the best monster movies are the ones that don't show the monster.
Exactly.
Like, I love me a good cheesy monster like the Cloverfield alien, but I don't think I needed to see the Blair Witch. And especially in later movies, that the fact that they showed her, I'm like, I didn't need that.
It's unnecessary.
Yeah.
I fully enjoyed it, knowing all of the history behind it and everything. I really liked it. And I think I would have liked it without the research too. Like, it was a good film.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely appreciated it with the research more, because
sure.
I'm a person who gets a little bit motion sick with shaky cam things. So
yeah, that is a fair warning. There was a lot of shaky cam because it was these three kids filming the whole thing and running around and things.
And they don't have like camera stabilizing equipment.
Oh God, no.
They bought one of these camcorders from, what was it?
It was from
Radio
Circuit
Shack?
City.
Oh yeah.
And they fully returned it after as well.
Could you imagine owning the Blair Witch camera?
I don't even know if you can like figure out which one it was. I'm
No,
sure it
I'm
was
sure
such
I'll-
a cavalier thing.
Yeah, I'm sure all those records are long gone. But I don't know. Maybe we'll do an eBay search later and it'll be up there.
Maybe.
Millions of dollars. But I mean, that just shows how low budget the film was. They literally bought the camera and was like, oh shit, we don't have enough money. We should resell it to get some money back to put toward like post-production and things.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So wild.
Crazy.
But
Quick,
it's so
cover it in
good.
dirt and then so we can take a fake picture of it and then clean it off so we can return it.
Gosh, that's probably what took so long with the 8 months, is just gathering artifacts to throw up on the website as well as editing.
Web development takes a long time.
Oh my
but-
God, it does. Especially at that time, I'm sure, because they probably did all the coding, right?
Oh yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Damn.
God.
Got no Squarespace.
You don't got no Squarespace? No
Hey,
Wix?
Squarespace, sponsor us. Yeah, you got no platforms to kind of
Fully learning how
help
to
you.
code
Yeah.
for your film.
I mean, they're grad students, you know? Like, that's just the perfect example of you're trying to do your craft, you're fresh into the industry, and you're like, yeah, why don't I just go camp for 8 days and do this method acting project just for fun? Like,
Why not?
it's a perfect young people project.
So great.
It's so fun. But yeah, definitely I think the research that you did and then shared with me made me appreciate the film more. But it's also just great acting that really carries the film.
Oh yeah, they did a fantastic job casting the actors.
Absolutely. And the incredibly iconic scene, so much that it's the fucking poster of the movie, of Heather's breakdown where she has the camera pointed at her with like the low light flashlight. I mean, that's just a great scene in general, and
It's so raw.
yeah, it's very, very good. So definitely these kids earned like all the acclaim of the film was definitely carried by their performance, as well as like good editing. And I love the switching between the black and white camera and the color camera.
Yeah, that was really cool.
It's really cool. Makes really cool like shot composition and things like that. It's a fun time. Like, as much as, yes, the experience is devalued by not having been there during the rise of it. Like, I can imagine it's a completely different viewing experience.
Oh my God, yeah.
But
I
it's
would love to talk to someone that was in like experiencing that as it happens. Like,
Right.
how wild
Right.
must that have been?
right. And yeah, we'll never get to experience that, but it's still a good film. And like, I loved watching it. I would rewatch it with somebody who has never seen it before. I probably wouldn't. It's not one of my favorite horror movies, but it's incredibly like culturally significant, and it was a blast to watch. So
I would probably say it's one of my favorite horrors.
Yeah?
To be honest, yeah.
I think I like Cloverfield Project a little bit more, but I love big cheesy aliens. So
I would I would say Cloverfield is
Cloverfield,
really close.
yeah, is my favorite overall package, but Blair Witch has the significantly better acting.
That's fair.
Because
I do like that
the
giant
Cloverfield
alien.
kids are just fully hamming it up.
I mean, they were also like New Yorkers or something.
Oh, yeah.
Like
I
fully
think
like
young TJ
coming
Miller is
off
in that
of a
movie.
party.
We're fully getting distracted. This is a Blair Witch episode, but maybe we'll also talk about other horror movies in the future.
Let us
Clearly, we
know.
have strong opinions.
We got opinions. Quick correction. I was wrong earlier saying Paranormal was really close to how Blair Witch advertised. It was actually Cloverfield, and they made MySpace pages for each of the characters to kind of mimic how they made a website with the Blair Witch Project to make it feel more real, like they're real people. So we were not far off talking about Cloverfield, so booyah.
Good for us. Also, MySpace. What a throwback.
I know, right?
Let's just dwell on that for a second. Could you imagine a horror movie now making Facebook profiles?
Disgusting.
First of
I'm
all,
sure there's out there.
probably. Wasn't there a
feel
whole
like-
horror movie of like people who like had like a ghost of a dead person join their like Facebook group chat or something?
Yeah, there was like video chat ones where it was like a
Yeah.
Skype call or something. Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, horror movies are wild. Good on you doing your double checking in the middle of the episode so we don't have to tweet about this later.
Oops.
We're efficient here, guys.
We're efficient.
Okay. So we already talked about how this movie was just all these circumstances like coming together to make it what it was, and it's not easily repeatable. Cloverfield tried, it didn't really work. But the main thing that we want to talk about in this episode is why you couldn't try this today even if you wanted to. Like, not with Blair Witch, not with anything semi-related to that, but like why the internet has changed so much and we couldn't really like fall for something like this nowadays. So I guess the episode is Blair Witch and modern internet, essentially.
Question mark?
Yeah, question mark. Question mark, exclamation point. So really what I want to talk about is like what are our thoughts on like the over investigation culture of the internet, and like how quickly people want to like disprove things, and how that would kind of like ruin the whole experience that was created by this film.
I mean, like, we all got Google, right? You know? I feel like
We got reverse image search.
I feel like I don't know. There's definitely a sense of not over analyzing, just over, I don't know, researching the crap out of everything type of things happening, especially in like true crime, that world.
Yep.
There is a lot of like quote unquote amateur investigators happening.
Right. Well, and that can go into like one of the bad things that can come out of this culture is like
Yeah.
you can undermine like a lot of the work and the creation that goes into like trying to give people a fun experience. So like with what the Blair Witch crew did, making fake artifacts and like crafting all of these things, like that was very intentional, and it was to make this more engaging meta experience of the project. And if people had debunked that, and it could have ruined that experience for other
Right.
people. It can also spoil things for people wanting to experience it themselves.
I feel like the whole idea behind no spoilers is relatively new though. Like I don't think
I think
So-
it's less spoilers of like what happens in the film, because that's really not the purpose of the film.
No.
It's not to have a narrative. It does loosely. It's like the journey through the woods and like how they eventually like end up missing. But it's more like believing in this experience. It's like your friends when you're in elementary school, like Santa's not real. It's like you were having fun believing that it was real, and somebody came along and poked your bubble, you know? Like I think popped your bubble, whatever. But like people came along and just like ruined the experience for you, and I think that's pretty common on the internet is thinking having an experience and having an opinion of something, and then having somebody else come along and wanting to intentionally like ruin that for other people.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's fun to just enjoy the media you take in.
Yeah, and not everything has to be deep. Not everything has to be like intentional or like highly crafted or works of art. Sometimes you just want a cheesy movie of teenagers going into the woods for 8 days, you know? Like, and we're not saying that this happened, because again, we weren't on the internet when this culture was being built up. We're just hypothesizing what it would be like now. And I think
it definitely wouldn't work.
I think that would definitely come up.
It would be very easy to research that all of these artifacts are incorrect, and you can probably like, I don't know, call like the police department. They'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? In the local
area. Yeah. It'd be very easy to disprove now.
Yeah, for sure.
And not only that, but it'd be very easy to alert people to the fact that it was faked.
Yeah.
So that I think was also
it definitely wouldn't be as fun, for sure.
Yeah, it would be over within like a few hours or at least a day. But yeah. And the other thing that I was thinking about, like this over investigation culture on the internet and how it would affect this film, is it perpetuates like the societal impatience that there is on the internet. Like the internet really is obsessed with having all the information immediately, and if you don't have it, then you will search for it. So it's like data mining in games to find shit that the developers are just wanting you to wait a little bit for, things like that. But with this film, it would be like, rather than waiting for the film to come out, like even on the, like when it was just a website, when it was just the marketing campaign, like people digging into it immediately and be like, don't believe this shit, this is a fake website. So that,
and they slowly released more information as well on the website, so it wasn't all immediately there.
No,
they
it was
slowly
like a drip feed over
built
time.
things up. Yeah.
And people would, I think nowadays, like try to find those things before they were even released and poke holes in them again.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
There'd be a billion Reddit threads trying to disprove this nowadays, for sure. But like we've talked about the bad things and like how the current internet would ruin things, but there's some good things that could come out of like the way the internet is that could make a really fun meta movie experience if people cultivated it the right way. And obviously like getting rid of trolls and things like that. But the thing that's really strong about the internet right now is like really easy to create and engage in a community. So in a way that probably wasn't possible when Blair Witch was happening, is you can put this website out into the community and see how people respond and adapt your response in real time based on what people are saying.
Right.
I feel like the way that it seems like it was presented, Blair Witch probably didn't do a lot of that. It had its like plan, and it executed it, and it did it in multiple steps, like what you're saying, like the updates of new things on the website. But it probably knew what it was doing going into it.
For sure.
It wasn't really a back and forth conversation. So that can make a really engaging meta horror experience.
You can fully create a community within it.
Exactly. And quick plug, but like one of the places I see that happening a lot is like horror art Twitter.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's just so many like cool like creators making weird monsters, like SCP containment unit style creatures. And it's so cool to see people engage back and forth with them and say, hey, I liked your like blurry photo of this creature. I made fan art of it doing this thing. And you can kind of like collectively build this narrative. Now I've seen some horrible things happening to some specific creators too, where their property gets stolen. People try to market off of it.
Yeah.
And that happens with anything art, unfortunately. But there is still that positive aspect of
like within the community, like the positive part of the community, it is so wholesome.
Right.
Like my favorite
horror Twitter is so wholesome.
Honestly, it is very wholesome. My favorite is people making fan art of Trevor's siren head.
And the Trevor's handle on Twitter, for anybody wanting to look it up, is a slimy swamp ghost, all one word.
We can put all of that in the description too, for sure.
You should definitely check out Siren Head.
So great.
Probably also because you've probably seen Siren Head somewhere
Probably,
else.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've seen so many people repost pictures of Siren Head on Facebook with no credit. Like, he's just made his rounds, unfortunately. But the original artist, his Twitter is fantastic.
He's so great. Love it.
And there's opportunities too for creators to work with each other. Like,
Mm-hmm.
didn't Trevor put Siren Head in somebody's project with other creatures? I would have to look into that. I
I'm
don't
not
want to
sure.
make a hard stance on that, but there's this option for like collaboration. And I think that was more
Working
apparent. Yeah,
together.
with like creepypastas. Like, do you remember creepypastas early? Like,
Uh-huh.
not early internet, but like mid early internet. I don't know, like early 2000s, late 2000s, right around 2010 ish. Creepypastas were such a thing. And it would be like somebody would write a creepypasta, and then somebody who can animate would come along and like make a video to
Mm-hmm.
accompany it. Some people would make like soundscapes. Some people would make full on video games related to creepypastas. But like, that could be a really fun meta horror experience, because
Mm-hmm.
then you get to kind of tap into the benefits of multiple media platforms
The
and how.
community can very easily build upon this already like established thing.
Right. And there's also, to bring it back to Blair Witch, you can still have things that are curated and are quote unquote cued. So the things that you're adding into the community slowly and seeing how they respond. But then also adapting and changing, not giving your community full control over your project, like when they're more independent or it's more like collaborative in that nature, but to see and have that like back and forth and see how your project can kind of grow and adapt. I think
For
that'd be
sure.
really interesting. The other thing that's a positive is fandom and this idea of like giving people something to look forward to discussing. So, like with the original Blair Witch, you'd get this new information on the Blair Witch, and you kind of read through the new files and see the new artifact and be like, oh shit, how does this connect to that, and all these things. And I think that would work also really well on the current internet. But that was probably what was really exciting about getting new information on that website, is you get to slowly put the pieces together yourself and with other people who are experiencing it.
Can you imagine like seeing fan art and things of like the Blair Witch?
Like what people thought that she looked
yeah,
like.
like
Yeah.
in the moment, like how they experienced it then through the internet. What did people think she looked like? I'm
Right.
so curious.
Right, exactly. And that's I think is a strength that can be utilized again in this idea of building community and whatnot. But it's also that what makes it fun to engage with as an audience member is you get to craft your experience. You get to put the initiative into finding that more of that information and talking with other people. It's kind of like when Twin Peaks first came out and pretty much everybody was talking about it. And formulating their theories about that. Like that's the main draw of fandom. And that's the main thing. And again, I don't know what the early internet looked like enough to be like, were there like forums that people could talk about the website and what, like, I would need to do more research, but I think that would be something that could be way more possible today. And then creators could come in and just like tease like, oh, maybe not with Blair Witch, because then that would just confirm that they're creating something and that it was fake all along. But for sure, could you imagine if the three teenagers had social media accounts built for them, and then they're like somebody would pretend to write on it being like their family member and being like, thank you for all of like your condolences and things like that and whatnot, like just to really build into the lore, because people were sending messages of condolences to Heather's mom or Heather's parents. But could you imagine like then the feedback, the back and forth? That would have been
wild.
That would have been insane. And it really would have changed how people felt when they found out it was fake. Like just adding extra layers.
What was your favorite thing about the movie?
You're just gonna do it like,
Yeah,
just like that?
You know I can't transition.
Well, let me transition it then.
Here is a transition.
Shut up. So, regardless of all our hypothesizing, we love this movie. So,
Fantastic.
yeah, we talked about it a little bit earlier of our thoughts of what we liked about it when we first saw it. But what is your favorite thing about the movie?
I honestly just really love, I guess, just how low budget it is with their cameras.
It's incredibly authentic all around.
Yeah. The fact that the actors probably weren't really like taught how to use said cameras and they fully look like just some kids that are like, let's go into these woods and try to find this thing we heard about. Let's get cameras.
It really helps with the narrative that the film puts together, that they weren't planning on spending a long time. They were planning on going in and coming right back out, and then they got stuck.
Yeah, they fully got lost.
Exactly. So I definitely think like the craft of the film adds to the product of it.
Yeah, so I guess my favorite thing is just like the art of it and the props, and the fact that at some point you hear like I think children laughing or something like that in the woods, and it's like a director playing it on like a boombox. Like it's just so DIY, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's such a wild experience, but that definitely adds so much more to it.
What's your favorite thing?
I said before I really like the acting, and I do honestly think that that's my favorite, but I also really love now how much more I understand about pop culture and how it's been influenced by this film. So like just the references of a character standing in the corner facing away from a camera, like just little references like that.
Their little stick logo thing.
Yeah, and how much other films have been influenced by this, even if they're not trying to do found footage. It just dramatically changed what people thought of and what people thought was possible with horror, really.
Right.
And so I really like the cultural understanding and the milestone that it is and that it represents.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. This was a great episode to do.
Great one. Honestly, I would rate this film a 9.8 out of 10.
You really like this film.
Purely based on like the backstory of it with like the website and all of that, and the fact that the website is a part of the experience of the film. Like if you just watch the film, it's just like but reading and going through the website, it's like, oh, holy shit.
Yeah, it's a deep hole to dive into if you want to, and that's I think that what makes the narrative so engaging is there's more if you want. You can stop with the film if you're not engaged by it, but that choice to go further really makes the information you find more valuable because you sought it out yourself.
Exactly. So based on fun deep dive experience and how cheesy it is, and yeah, it's just, I love it.
Hell yeah.
What would you rate it?
Ooh, I don't want to give it a hard number. If I had to give it like a range, I would give above average. So like a C, I guess.
A C?
like a C plus.
Okay.
There are other horror movies that I love for a lot of different reasons that this film doesn't even attempt to do, just because of where it sits in film history. But
that's fair.
It's good. And I guess I would give the legacy of this film like an A plus, but the experience maybe a C plus.
That's fair. I should also note that I am the easiest person to rate things. Like I'll give anything a 10. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, my rating system is always like relating back to like other things that I've seen, and I feel I can't give this thing a 10 because they gave this other thing a 10 and I don't like it as much.
That's fair.
It's a lot more complicated up in this brain than it is in yours. It's
totally fair. I don't think about it at all. I'm like, this feels good.
Exactly. But this was a fantastic episode to do. I'm really glad that we reached out to our audience to help us pick. This was one, when we did the poll, it was a list of options, and so this was one that we had been considering, but I'm really glad that there was push to hear this from us.
Yeah.
So I would love to do another one of these like selected topics, but I think it'd also be fun to do write-in topics as we keep going.
Yeah, let us know what you guys want to hear.
Yeah.
I'm very intrigued.
And also let us know what you think about us not talking about more activism related causes. It's definitely something we're experienced and have a lot of knowledge about, but it's not the only thing that we care about. So
I guess this would be more film analysis just in general.
Yeah, I'm really just down to discuss.
I'm here to talk.
Yeah. As long as you're here to listen, we're here to talk. So let us know what you want.
Cool.
Outro time.
Woo! You can follow the show at beans_podcast on Twitter and Instagram, and send your comments and questions to our email, beansandleavespod@gmail.com. If you want to donate to the show to help us provide transcripts for all our episodes, we have a Patreon and a Ko-fi page. You can find the links on our website and social medias.
Our theme music was created by Andrew Pena, a new upcoming composer who is always looking for new projects and collaborations. Follow him on Instagram at AndyFast1. Thanks for listening. Bye!
Bye!